It's October 2004, Yankees at Red Sox, American League Championship Series Game 3. This is Remember That Game, the podcast about sporting events that take you on a journey and maybe chart the path of the zeitgeist. I'm your host, Thomas Emerick, and my guest is Liam Kerr, host of Welcome Fest and co-founder of Welcome Pack, working to hold and add frontline seats to the D column in 2026. Down White House and two branches of Congress right now, but does being down 0-3 build character, at the very least for Boston sports fans at the turn of the century?
It more than build character, I think it kind of broke us into a new character. This was not City of Champions. We might have been, birthplace of America. Massachusetts invented America, but I was born in 1983. I don't remember the 86 Celts. A lot of pain up until that first Super Bowl. And this, it was, I think, this arc of Game 3 being, how could it be worse than last year? And it feels like everything's been different since.
Yeah, so 1918 to 2004, most of that you're not alive. But imagine you feel the weight from family and friends. And with each dramatic shortcoming you get to witness, that happens at Fenway or the Bronx.
Yeah, so they killed my father. Now they're coming after me. Luckily, my dad was spared and made it through. Made it through 78 and 86. And one of his best friends from high school ended up being a ticket taker for the Sox at Fenway, and so I would get to sneak into games. I just had to bring a little piece of paper, and he would rip the piece of paper so it looked like he was ripping a ticket. And so getting in for playoff games in the 90s, you definitely felt the anxiety that was passed on generation to generation. It's Irish Catholic is 2 strikes, and Red Sox fan in the 90s was a third. So a lot of nervousness and anxiety and guilt coming into 04.
03, 1 year before the game we're talking about. This is where the angst hits a peak. Probably you get to Game 7 with the Yankees and you have the lead. Pedro throws 95 pitches, and then how are you feeling at that point?
Yeah, so I'm at Providence College. I'm a junior. I'm living off campus. We had a 3-story house, and there were 3 guys on the first floor. Had a Situate guy, another South Shore guy, and West Roxbury guy on the first floor. Pretty hardcore Sox fans. And then we had another Needham guy from Needham, Massachusetts, another Needham guy on the second floor with a guy from Guilford who is a Yankees fan. And then the 2 kids on the top floor were from the capital region, Albany, Saratoga, and they're Yankees fans. And so, we've been having this incredible Super Bowl run, and pretty rowdy, pretty fun. And we were probably not as humble as we could have been about that. And so, we'd watch the Sox games on the first floor, Sox fans, Yankees fans up on the third floor. And I remember the hat on the floor, a traumatic, but just shattered. The Boone home run just shattered. And for some reason, someone got glass bottles that night instead of cans, which it turned out to be a really bad decision. And some things were said, and some things were thrown up and down the stairwells. And so this is like, fall, and you have to pick your houses for next year. And we ended up kind of splitting the group. So I didn't actually live with that. Me and the other, it split up the house. It was a really rough. I've never lost any friends over MAGA. But that broke up the house. It was rough. And then we patched things up, I think, by getting back from Thanksgiving break finals and throwing parties. At that point we were good. But there was a couple of weeks where it was not good.
We all reacted, and let's bygones be bygones, and also look forward to a rematch. At the very least, could you? Did the Marlins knocking the Yankees out take a little less, take some of this thing out and help that reconnection?
Yeah, that was pathetic. That was pathetic. I think I had an AIM instant messenger away message that was really not my finest moment. I mean, rooting really hard for the Marlins. I mean, it was just it was kind of like Boston threw a parade for Ray Bork winning the Stanley Cup. I mean, it was pathetic. Rooting for the Marlins in that game was pathetic. Yeah, not proud.
I imagine it made the offseason feel a little better, a little more something you could suffer through.
Yeah, I mean, so we get another Super Bowl in January, which is you
Helps.
know for sure helps. But by that point, they were on different planes. It's kind of like you had this charmed existence as a Patriots fan, and then the dark side on the Sox. And the off season was really weird. It was just really weird. Um, I lived on campus, or sorry, off campus, but down in Providence for that summer. Um, and the whole winter, A-Rod, trades, untrades, Manny's gone, Nomar. I mean, it was bizarre. And so like that off season was really weird. And then I brought up the summer just because it was actually the last Dispatch concert, which is a very kind of millennial Boston area
Yeah,
thing to be at. Last
general, right?
at the Hatch Shell is before smartphones, so like word starts going around that they traded Nomar finally, and so that was kind of the end of this period from the off season all the way through the summer. I just remember like going back to Providence that night, being like, "Wow, Nomar!" I mean, Nomar is just like total all my teenage years. The only time I ever got through calling into WEI Sports Talk Radio was to yell at Dan Shaughnessy about Nomar and defend Nomar. That was earlier that season, and yeah, it was this tumultuous time of a team breaking up that we thought would be the one to get over the hump, and it was really hard and awkward and bizarre.
Yeah, they try to trade Nomar that off season. Was it Nomar and Manny for Alex Rodriguez? Players Union shoots it down,
Yeah,
and that
and
but
Maglia Ordonez was involved. I mean, it was
uh,
yeah,
blockbuster. But um and the rain, or I guess Alex Rodriguez, the agent, leaks it, so then it's on the news and it gets shut down. And you're calling between then and then Nomar's on the team during the season. You're calling sports talk radio, defending Nomar.
yeah, but like, I mean, he could have acted. Nomar certainly could have acted better. I mean, there's the game. I think it was at Yankee Stadium where Nomar sits out and Jeter runs into third base and or sorry, past third base into the stands, and A-Rod's on the Yankees after we thought we had A-Rod. I mean, uh, a real kind of mess. But Nomar was our guy. He was either dating or married to Mia Hamm. They once came over like 10 over and were doing some sort of soccer clinic. I mean, this was like, you know, they were, yeah, the idea that, we're just going to abandon Nomar was really hard. And yeah, I was team Nomar. Obviously the season was a bit of a slog. But yeah, that was hard. That was hard.
Yeah, royal American royalty there. Mia Hamm and the '99 team had won the World Cup against China, and then Nomar, the best player there, or the most important player to the town for a while, but now he's on the trade block, and the team struggling, as you mentioned, that the game Jeter dives into the stands. Boston's struggling around 500, and then. Yeah, during that season, you have Terry Francona. You go from Grady Little to Francona, um, uh, and I guess Little fired because of keeping in Pedro too long in Game 7. Does this feel like a different vibe even before they got hot at the end? Did it feel like this team could break out of this this cursed existence as related to the Yankees and winning?
Yeah. Well, I think Grady Little. Again, I'm in Providence. I'm from outside Boston, and I think a lot of people just felt Grady Little's accent was did not inspire a lot of confidence in like teenage dudes who grew up in Boston. It's just like, you know, and Francona, um, yeah, he had a vibe to him. He had energy. I can't remember. I feel like he might have had cancer from chewing tobacco, but he looked like he was always just like had a lipper in and but had energy. And so uh, you know, I think when you're talking about confidence, it's like a summer 2004 Red Sox fan. We're talking about like on a scale of 0 to 10, like going from like zero point 0.7 to zero point 0.5 or something. I mean, we had no confidence.
Yeah, but at the very least, it seems like a looser team. Like Kevin Millar in the dugout and all the characters there. That probably helps.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the I think it was funny at the age I was too, where it's like, you're 19. The cowboy up thing is kind of funny. Um, but like the fratty, funny thing, is definitely necessary. And it was definitely fun to watch. But both the '03 and '04 teams had that kind of vibe. '04 more, but Millar was on the '03 team too. They were goofy then too. Um, so I think we love these guys, and as frustrating as they were at times, um, yeah, it definitely felt like, um, yeah, it's so hard to go back to that. I think we were all just so anxious. The fact that they were so chill is kind of hard to have known at the time. Obviously, we know it now in retrospect.
Yeah, and they're about 9 games over 500. A-Rod and Jason Varitek get into a fight in a July 24th game.
Yeah.
And then from then on, they win that their 55% win percentage to go 64% rest of the way. Get the wild card. Hop past Billy Bean's Oakland A's. And another element to this is Theo Epstein, who's recommended out of obscurity by Billy Bean to run the Red Sox. Seems like he's making a lot of tough calls. What's the read on him, even before you see the results, with all the moves he's made or attempted to make by that point?
Yeah. I think there is Boston does have like a we're smarter than everybody vibe, I think. I mean, Brookline, where he went to grew up and went to high school, Theo, is in our conference and in high school sports. And, I think the idea that like Grant Hill's father, Calvin Hill, is the Orioles executive and hires Theo, and, he goes to all these other smart franchises and, in the sabermetrics kind of little bit of a world of, this is like internet bubble, everything's possible. We're in the Bush years, but it's still like an optimistic, coming out of the '90s time. And yeah, it felt like we were a step ahead, a little bit. Maybe not, the gorilla costume comes later, and all this sort of stuff. But also he was, when you're 19, 20, 21, 28 sounds wicked old. So he didn't seem that young to me at the time. And, I think the Celtics later also had a feeling of, I mean, obviously Belichick, where you just felt like our guys are smarter than your guys. Like Belichick will trade down in the draft. Eventually the Celtics got that way too, of like the guys running our team are smarter than the guys running your team. And so I think Theo kind of was folded in a little bit to that sense, like Belichickian sense of like, yeah, we got guys that are a step ahead.
Yeah, and he trades Nomar, who had been the face of the franchise, midseason. So they're making tough choices. They're keeping like oddly loose, despite all the history and the weight of expectation. There's something Democrats could learn from, both making tough choices and unclenching a little bit to make those tough choices.
Yeah, I actually think what we were saying earlier about how loose and chill the team was, despite all the anxiety around them, is the bigger lesson. It's like you have, maybe, maybe a 25 leader roster of Democrats who can like get out there and win games and show how it is. Some red seat candidates, red seat Democrats in the House, red seat candidates that need to win the Senate, governors who are going to run for president, all that stuff. Probably only about 25 people. And they've got all this anxiety swirling around them. I mean, all the data on like how bad liberals' mental health is, staffers in Democratic politics, all the people on Blue Sky, and like you do have a ton of anxiety swirling around the Democratic Party. So, focus group written up the other day, or was like, asking people to compare parties to animals. Is it like a leopard or like a bear? And someone said the Democrats are like a deer. They're like staring into the headlights, unable to do anything. And that's kind of how Red Sox fans were, just anxious, frantic, staring straight ahead. And I mean, I feel the candidates we support, the candidates that we've gotten to know at Welcome Back, like they get absolutely just harassed on the internet in real life by these people who, many of whom are just mentally unwell and need help. And yeah, getting a little bit of that Kevin Millar, Johnny David, Manny, like these are the best people in the world at what they do. And yet they just kind of blocked out all the anxiety of tens of thousands of people in the stadium, millions of people, in uh, in Red Sox Nation, and all the people writing tense things about him, and they just kind of rode the wave over it. And it's like we need our Democratic leaders to do that for sure. I mean, on the tough call part, like um, we always say like there's no such thing as the Democrats. Like there is no CEO, there is no general manager. There are actually not people to make tough calls. It's just the aggregation of a lot of individual incentives and a lot of individual decisions. Um, and there's unfortunately we can't just have one big trade.
Yeah, and you end up in the '04 ALCS against the Yankees again. The storyline, all the flashbacks are Game 7 the previous year. You say deer in the headlights. Grady Little has the bullpen warming up. The door is opening, but Theo Epstein, someone who came in and made tough decisions, tried to trade Nomar immediately. He said that he's told Little at 95 pitches, we want to get away from like the analytics say, the tables say, let's get away from the starting pitcher. He keeps Pedro Martinez in. There's some similarity there. It was 2020 and through up passing some legislation into midterms. Was that Biden's 95 pitches? And did it seem like there's some deer in headlights about people being public about what the tables say you should do with a turning 80-year-old candidate?
Yeah. I mean, Biden was at 170 pitches or something, right? So, yeah, I think knowing when it's time is a good, I think, Democratic challenge. But actually, more so, I think, though, where Francona and Epstein eventually got, like, so Theo's, played high school baseball, and that was it. And you got Francona, who I think his father was also in the bigs, so like a lifer. And you needed these two people to like come together a little bit more. And politics for sure has this Moneyball on the one hand and kind of culture of good old boys doing it the way things have always been done. And it can't just be Moneyball. And it definitely can't just be, we're going to stick with what works. I think the interesting thing about kind of the original crude kind of baseball metrics, the story of like Bill James sitting at his security guard job in Lawrence, Kansas, while a student, thinking about how at the time, infielders, particularly shortstops, who don't make a lot of errors were highly valued. And he was thinking about, well, what about the shortstop who doesn't get to a ball because he's not quick enough off the bat and he can't reach it? He doesn't get an error. But someone who's faster and has a better jump may make an error because they reach the ball, but they're not in time to throw them out at first. So they get an error, even though that's a better defensive play. They kept the ball in the infield, runners are less likely to advance, all this stuff. And then sometimes they do make the play. And so needing to come up with more advanced metrics. And I think one of the the coolest things about the kind of sabermetrics movement was it allowed people to think outside the box a little bit more. And I think in the modern Democratic Party, it's kind of similar to errors of like comparing two shortstops to each other. Oh, this guy made 13 errors in 1972. This guy made 9 errors in 1972. And it's like elections only come along every couple of years. How many presidential election midterms have we had? People throw out all these stats, and it's like the end size just like isn't that big.
Sample, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Sample size isn't that big. Um, and no one gets rewarded for diving for a ball that other people wouldn't have got to, and it skips off your glove and you get charged with an error. So like the first candidate we ever invested in was Adam Frisch in Colorado's third congressional district. It was against Laura Boebert, and people just thought the race was not winnable. And so he ends up losing in a recount. But that's a situation where somebody got to a ball no one thought anybody could get to, and didn't quite make the play. But God, what if we were trying to make all those plays? Right, we're giving up in so many places. We're giving up on so many voters that could be winnable if we contested them.
Sent Boebert running to another district.
Exactly. She kept on running. What's that? I think that was game. Was that game? I think game 6 of the ALCS, or no, game 5. The game that ended at. Oh no, I think it was game 4. The game that ended at like 12:45 in the morning, and it was like, he's gonna run home and we'll keep on running to New York. It's like
Dave Roberts, and
Boebert kept on running to East Colorado.
yeah, and they needed that because they lose the first 2 in New York, and then game 3 here starts bad. 3 in the first for the Yankees. The Sox come back with 4 in the second. Johnny Damon drives in a run and scores that inning. The top player in WAR among position players, Schilling and Pedro are 1 and 2 in the Sox, but top position player Johnny Damon. They make it a 4-3 game, so it doesn't start off terribly after the first couple innings. Damon, their top WAR guy. As far as wins above replacement, who would his congressional counterpart be for the Dems?
Oh wow! Well, the people would always say, looks like Jesus handles the wood like Joseph, and then you wouldn't be allowed to say it anymore, but people would say throws like Mary, just like the church going Sox fan, pre-woke way to talk about Damon, but Damon, I think he's a big Trump guy now. Like he's not the only one on 4 Sox, but I mean Damon comes up in Kansas. I think he has a compelling heritage. He's very fast. He's also really tough. Coming up through the Royals before coming over to the Sox and then eventually the Yankees. So, maybe a Sharice Davids, Kansas connection, interesting background. We'll go with that. Flipping seats.
Yeah, if, they're in the Kansas City burbs. The Red Sox also have because David Ortiz in top 60 and were there, and they get another guy, not a ton, not on the radar of a lot of teams. In fact, the Florida Marlins were trying to sell him to Japan. Theo Epstein stopped it. Kevin Millar, and he was saying he just gets on. Theo Epstein would say he just gets on base. Is that like the decent comparison for finding candidates to be viable in R plus 15 congressional seats? Is that the on base percentage counterpart or something like that?
Yeah, I mean we
underrated metric right now.
Yeah, it's also just a good clubhouse guy, I think, right? And Millar, just contagious enthusiasm, super high energy, and he, got on base. Clearly, just loved the game, loved baseball. and he kind of didn't care. He would just say what he thought, and he would go after it. The game before the A-Rod game, the game before the A-Rod Varitek fight, I went to. My uncle got us tickets, and I'm in the '04 video. My brother and we stood up before the other people in the crowd stood up for Millar's third home run. So that's my only appearance in the kind of like official '04 documentary book DVD thing from back then. But I'm gonna say Adam Gray is a Rep Adam Gray from California who just won, flipped a Trump district, won a Trump seat, super high energy, post solid war over performance. And it's not probably any one thing, any one issue. He's just a gamer. Just
Yeah.
gets out there.
Was that Central Valley, California?
Yeah.
By 281 votes, right? He wins, but what matters is he got on base. And the Yankees were doing a good job of that in Game 3 here. Eventually, they score 7 runs. A 7-0 stretch between the 4th and the 5th inning, where Yankees break it open in Game 3. Sox on the verge of going down 0-3. Where did you watch this game, and what was the coping mechanisms as the game went on?
Yeah. So I never drank during playoff games. It was just like too much. Like I couldn't. It just was too. It'd be like having a flask in church or something. Like just wouldn't be right. And it's interesting. I remember. I can paint you a picture of exactly where I was. I actually don't know whose house it was. It was not a place I was a lot, and it was not a place I'd watched other games. I think maybe we mixed up the location. And I remember I was with another kid named Liam. Actually, it was a year younger than I am. And we were in a basement, kind of one of those like white plaster. I mean, this is all like slumlord off-campus housing stuff. And there was a TV that was on the ground. It might have been propped up like a little bit, or one of those like little kind of half moon things that a TV stand props up the TV a little bit. And I think when the mechanic Curtis Laskanik that's I think what kind of opened it, just shattered. It was just like and I remember we got the drinks ready. I think I was the only one not drinking. I got the drinks ready to be like the last outcomes, and like let's get this over with. And man, it was brutal. It was brutal. It was brutal. Yes, just sitting on the floor, nauseous. And yeah, I don't know, somebody's basement off campus. I don't know who's.
And yeah, nauseously watching Bernie, A-Rod, Matsui, and Sheffield combined for 16 hits and 15 RBIs in one playoff game. A-Rod sending home runs on the Lansdowne Street. And 19-8 is that final. Bob Ryan declares in the Boston Globe that it's a death sentence. What was the atmosphere like over there? I know around Fenway apparently it was dead silent from then right through the start of Game 4. What was it like over there on campus?
Yeah, I mean the rest of that night I think probably went pretty fast. But I just remember seeing the 19-8. Actually, the really vivid thought was like, I'll try not to swear on the pod, but like it was just like, if they score 10 runs in the ninth and lose 19-18, I don't know if I could. Like, it was that was the mentality, because I think the Yankees had a couple in the ninth and it was like 19. Like, is it going to be 19-18? Is that going to be are they going to come that close and then rip our hearts out? Like, that is the whole. It wasn't just losing; it was the getting so close and then getting your heart ripped out. Yeah. So, the next day, I remember the day after the Boone home run, I had a midterm or something. I had some test. I just remember writing at the top of the blue book, I had a traumatic personal experience last night, and I'm like, my brain is useless right now. And I was like, I think I tried to answer some of the questions on the test, but it was just like, yeah, I don't even know. who knows?
Yeah, the math on when the Red Sox had the lead the ninth, 94% win probability in Game 7, 2003. Eventually, the Yankees get runners on base. Boone hits the home run. Now down 0-3 against the Yankees the following year. The books were they'd give you 120-1 for the Red Sox to win the World Series that year. At that point, pretty nice, decent chunk of change if you put $1,000 on that. Are there any parallels to the Dems' current situation? Bob Ryan called this a death sentence for the Red Sox. Some are saying that the shifts with young men, minorities, working class are a death sentence at the most extreme levels. Other people are saying various degrees of alarm about it. But and you say it builds character being down 0-3. But what do you take from back then to help you kind of sort through the position Dems are in right now?
Yeah. I'd say the Senate is the clearest case. I mean, I think White House might be a coin flip, House might be a coin flip in a lot of years. I mean, the Senate, the structural disadvantage that Democrats have in the Senate of just giving up, 42 seats off the bat, practically, and showing an unwillingness really to do what it would take to meaningfully contest a whole bunch of states that you'd have to win half the time, much less the states you would want to win a tenth of the time, just to give yourself somewhat decent odds to consistently win in the Senate. So, I think the situation that, the Celtics might have been in like the Isaiah Thomas era, or maybe the end of probably as far as the Boston sports analogy, I think I would most closely make for how Democrats are in the Senate probably be, when it was clear that Garnett, Pierce, Perk, Rondo, like that unit was just not going to get back to a championship, and recognizing that. And I think right now, like the Democratic Party and the Senate is like the 2011-12 Boston Celtics. Like we're gonna have to make some pretty big moves and pretty aggressive moves and get lucky. Right? I think that's where Democrats are in the Senate of like you're gonna have to like piss a lot of people off. How could we do that to Garnett, and how could we do that to Paul Pierce been stabbed? I mean, and you're going to have to look at your team, look at your coalition, and be like, hey, like, we're going to have to like make this a race in Mississippi, everybody. So somebody's not going to be happy. And then you got to get lucky, right? You need somebody else to make a bad decision. Obviously, this was this brief era of Russian ownership. We won't make a Russia analogy, but a brief era of Russian ownership and in New Jersey of the Nets. And I think it was New Jersey. Maybe they were. I don't think they were in Brooklyn. No, they were in Brooklyn at least by the end of Garnett's time. But you're gonna have to make somebody make a really bad decision, and I think you can bet on the Republican Party probably making a couple bad decisions electorally in terms of who they nominate. So you're gonna have other people make a bad decision, and then you're gonna have to crush your draft picks, right? You're gonna have to get Tatum when other people want Fultz or Ball. Right? You're gonna have to get Jaylen Brown. You're gonna have to be just wicked smart about who you draft. But a lot has to go right, even to put yourself in the position to win. Piss people off, have the other team be stupid, and then make the right draft picks. And so I think that's probably clear, not to take us away from, the darkness of being down 0-3 into the light of Danny Ainge, putting the Celtics in the position they've been in for the last 6 years. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, half of any game is capitalizing on your opponent's mistakes, and the Yankees twice in one calendar day give David Ortiz something to hit with the game on the line, clinching Game 4 and Game 5, one in the early AM, the other in the late PM. And we're back. We're going, as I mentioned, we're going to New York for Game 6 and 7. So the vibe shift, I'm sure, is in effect already.
Yeah, I I think we were still cautious. We were still nervous, right? I mean, at the time,
Something's gonna go wrong. Yeah.
but it was just euphoria. It was euphoria, and that is where that's where legends are made. And the Poppy twice in a day. Obviously, you can look at the highlights. I've had my kids watch the you know the comeback, but at the time, it's like we didn't zoom forward to the game winning hits each time. Like there were a bunch of times that we he and others didn't deliver. But yeah, just a special 20, 27, 28 hours there.
Yeah, you get Dave Roberts running the bases against Mariano Rivera in Game 4 to Santa extras, and Ortiz's homer puts him over, and then Game 6, Ortiz I think punches in Bill Miller, right, to win that one. Game 6. So A-Rod, he's gonna sign with the as we mentioned, with the Sox. It falls through. And then Aaron Boone tears his ACL playing basketball or his Achilles or something, and he gets okay. Let's go get A-Rod. And in Game 6, A-Rod is running the base pads and swats the ball to the glove of Bronson Arroyo. What's the arc for the Red Sox fan that year from okay, we're getting A-Rod. I'm gonna be an A-Rod guy to this point and everything that happened. What could that have interference call? Would have been sweeter called against anyone else at that point?
No, and I think it's so hard not to have a lot of respect for I almost said the captain, but for Jeter, yeah. And you can't ignore the talent of A-Rod. But definitely by the time the season got underway, even I wanted to roll with Nomar. Definitely rolling with Manny, definitely rolling with these guys, and really feeling like A-Rod's not a Boston type guy. And the fact that he played third and Jeter stayed at short when A-Rod was a better third baseman, but everyone, especially Tim McCarver, they're just constantly talking about how Jeter would do anything for the team. Jeter would do anything. Well, we should move to third base or move to second base because A-Rod's a better shortstop. So you're actually not doing the right thing for the team. But yeah, rooting against A-Rod there. I was at Stonehill that night for the interference call, visiting my brother. I think at that point I was like, we're going to watch the game in a different place every night after the first three. And I think that might have been an emotional turn of, wow, these guys are frazzled. And it might all be coming together for us.
Okay, so at that point, they're cooked. Do you remember that moment between the ball getting swatted out and before like the calls affirmatively there's a little time test. Were we screaming? What's or just dead silent? What's happening there?
So I'm a senior. My brother's a freshman. So I'm with these like 18-year-old kids at Stonehill. And Stonehill, they don't party at all. So this is like just watching a game with beers was like the most exciting thing that had happened on campus thing. And they were all, loud and, I think it was a lot of screaming and then quiet everybody down and try to listen. There's no smartphone. There's no I would follow online a little bit just on the game cast sometimes just to get, stuff at your fingertips. But we had no idea what was going on. So I think it was a lot of swearing, screaming, and then trying to quiet everybody down and listen.
Yeah, and then so you get a little edge at that moment. The game cast, you might get the news a minute ahead of everyone. That's pre-Twitter, which I think was 06. Yeah, we're in 04 here. So it's the game cast it is. And yeah, big turning point there. So you are a big momentum, a confirmation of momentum there. Now, some of the analytics folks, the last couple decades, they're changing their minds. Some of them on this now, but they were saying like analytics is for peasants in the 2000s and last decade. Did this change your thoughts on momentum for forevermore?
Yeah, I mean, I've actually read some of the kind of academic literature on whether momentum's real or not. Um, I think Tyrese Halliburton is only the latest case study of momentum. Momentum is real. Momentum's totally real, and we say welcome back. We say a lot about like data and vibes, and there is the data, there is the money ball, but yeah, there's something about you know the vibe, the tension, the anxiety, the people who want to rise to the moment, who know they can rise to the moment, who have a history of doing that. Um, I think about the um, Scott Pioli. I think one of the kind of Patriots personnel guys was on the was working for the Falcons in the Patriots Falcons Super Bowl, and apparently they were all kind of cheering up in the team suite. And Pioli was just like, "Shut the up! Like you don't know who's over there. You don't know the killer that's on that other side." And yeah, there's something. Some people are just killers. Some people just they have it in them. And I think maybe it's overdone from time to time in sports, but um, certainly seems like you want the ball in Brunson or Halliburton's hands this spring anyway.
Yeah, I guess blank nose ball, Arthur Blank, and but it is in momentum in making a seat competitive, like Adam Frisch did in Colorado, now working with you, or Rebecca Cook last cycle, Wisconsin, in a tough environment, making that race close and running again. Momentum as far as like getting these seats nearly, getting candidates nearly on base in these seats. That's probably pretty important too, as far as momentum goes.
Yeah, I mean, I think the two main drivers of that, one is the split ticket data analytics or election analytics folks have shown. Democratic candidates perform about a point higher on their second challenge. And part of that, I think, is congressional campaigns. You're basically running a $15 million startup business and a very complicated business in a very complicated environment. So just even from like a business operations perspective, to be able to hit go with all that clear is a huge head start. I also think, particularly for Democrats going against Republican incumbents, because actually the reverse in the split ticket data is not as true quite as much. Democrats who are launching these challenges often have to overcome quite a lot with the national party brand weighing against them. And so that can take a lot of time. And you can really chip away at the misperceptions of the Democratic Party or the accurate perceptions of the National Democratic Party, but kind of break up a little bit how that applies to you, and something that takes a while. And I think the second piece is we do a lot of kind of Moneyball-esque analysis on the overall ecosystem to try to understand, again, because there's no the Democrats, there's this pretty fractured marketplace of investing in races. And candidate like Rebecca Cook, who you mentioned, who showed really strong performance when she actually won the first time as a primary challenger, or sorry, in a competitive primary for that seat back in 2022. And her vote per dollar, she spent less than the person who came in third place and got way more votes. And she was not coming from one home base as a local elected official. She was basically winning anybody's vote who wasn't already with somebody else without spending a lot of money. So there was some good stuff in the data there already, pointing to her as someone who can overachieve a regular kind of partisan or regular candidate's performance, given a certain level of investment. So when you're coming back that second time, a lot of times you're not kind of fighting through the thicket of a primary. You're really focusing on those voters in the middle, but then also the marketplace comes in for you. So you're running a second time. Part of that is lots of people want you to run for a second time and want to get behind you.
Yeah, and Red Sox make it not even a contest in Game 7. Momentum carries through there. And then once you're in the World Series, it's a glide. It's a sweep. Manny Ramirez, MVP. What's that feeling like? And what's the Manny arc? What was that like for you? From a bit mercurial over the years of the Sox, but then really coming through in the World Series.
Yeah. So you were asking about the kind of emotional momentum. I mean, I think the we definitely did not treat the World Series with enough seriousness in terms of the people I was watching those games with. I mean, it was after that. It never even occurred to me. I don't think that we would lose. I mean, I'm sure there were moments in the games, but I just remember game one, just knowing and not being nervous. I remember recognizing after, like, wow, I wasn't nervous or anxious. Um, and then came home to Needham to watch the last game with my dad. My brother did too. Just had to do it. And yeah, kind of a sense of mortality of like we didn't know if we get to watch the Red Sox win the World Series with their dad. And he's still kicking, by the way. I'm not.
Red Sox didn't kill us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Manny is so interesting because you know he so clearly put in all the work, just like worked incredibly hard. Um, but for sure it could be frustrating. And I think not running out ground balls and I mean the cutoff, the diving cutoff when he wasn't supposed to cut the ball off. Some of those you had to laugh at a little bit. Um, but yeah, he can be frustrating, and I think for the people that were obsessive, the chatter was always that he worked incredibly hard. So maybe he didn't run at every ground ball, but he sure put the work in to get ready for games. So
Yeah, and is there something though? Last question here: is there something to learn in for the Dems from the Red Sox experience with Manny and the fans' experience with him, where he doesn't do maybe a voter or a candidate or a person doesn't do everything you absolutely love personally, but they can deliver value to you as a team?
yeah, when we started Welcome, remember looking at some Pew Research data. I think it's like 14% of Democrats agree with the Democratic Party on all like seven major issues. People aren't outside of blue sky like pure. um, the world is complicated. The world is messy, and you have to take people as they are, love them for who they are, and if they're one of the greatest hitters in a generation, or if they can win a West Virginia Senate seat, you should probably give them a big hug and love them for it instead of trying to tear them down just because they don't, run out of ground ball or they don't think exactly how you think.